to share what's next for Cypress and how we're solving tomorrow's testing problems today. Please join me in welcoming Cypress founder, Brian Mann.
Thanks, Jenna. Hello, everyone. So today I'm going to be talking a little bit about the results of our exploration to bring a few different types of AI capabilities directly into the app, into workflows that you are probably familiar with. And we'll see how this goes, but I thought it might be like a fun departure from years in the past to skip the few hundred slides I usually put together and honestly just jump straight into a real demo of the things that we're building, that we have built, as well as the things that we're actually releasing today, right after this talk. And so, you know, I hope you enjoy this this sort of new experiment to show you what we're working on. Specifically, I'm really going to be focusing on two different product areas, right? The first one we have is cy.prompt. This is a brand new Cypress command that enables you to write tests in natural language. There's some really cool features that I'm excited to show, like its ability to automatically have self-healing capabilities. And I would say our sort of unique spin on it is, you know, taking advantage of the capabilities from large language models, but to balance sort of the core challenges with unpredictability and unreliability, and making everything really, really fast, really reliable, really performant. The other area, like product area I'm going to be talking a lot about is Studio, the enhancements that we've made to it over the last couple months, big update that we had in version 15, and a lot of the new things that we are building on top of it, including some new AI capabilities. And honestly, with that, like we can just jump straight into the demo. Okay, so I already have Cypress up and running, and give me 1 second, pull up the screen, and let me just first spend a quick minute introducing everyone to what it is, like the application that we're going to be using to showcase a lot of these things. So this is just a simple e-commerce website, like the Cypress swag site. And, you know, this is, you know, your run-of-the-mill e-commerce site. You have a bunch of different product listings. We can obviously do things like, you know, filter, we can search, we can click into the product details, favorite things, we can, you know, add multiple items to the cart, write reviews, and then, you know, from within the cart, obviously you can make changes to it, you can clear the shopping cart, you can eventually check out over here. You know, pretty much what you'd expect from any sort of simple standard e-commerce site. So this is what we're going to be using today. All right, so let's just go ahead and start fresh here. So the first thing I want to talk about is cy.prompt. And so this is the latest version of Cypress, right? Version 15. And as part of this, I'm going to be using some of the newest updates that we have incorporated into Studio to basically be able to write my test code and immediately, like without switching to my IDE, basically take advantage of this and showcase some of the new prompt capabilities with this. So it's worth noticing, like we're just focused on a single test right now. This is all just about like the checkout flow, and it's just going to focus on us basically purchasing the first product here. So let me drop this in. And so, as part of the latest updates with Studio, we've brought about the ability to basically just edit your test code in line here. And what I am dropping in is the newest command that I mentioned. And so with prompt, it works pretty much just like it's written here. When we go to run this is all going to be natural language. It's under the hood going to automatically translate everything into the Cypress commands. And I mean, this is a live demo. It's really going to run. So let's give it a go and see what happens. So in this prompt, if you will, we've got about 13 different steps, right? We're first clicking the first product. We've got things like assertions that can be written in a number of different ways. So the idea behind this is just that you can express things in a very natural way. We have most of the Cypress commands supported within here. Typically, like the DSL works by you describing like the target that you want to work with, and then the action that you want to perform. We can see that prompt is modeled a little bit differently than some of the other commands. What this did is this basically ran the 13 steps. It's doing the translation on the fly to the individual commands, and we can see that that this took about 15 seconds to run through each of these, right? And so I'm going to go ahead and pull up DevTools here, and I kind of just want to show a little bit about what it's doing, right? So the first thing is that when each individual step runs, you can basically see exactly the Cypress commands that were translated. So in this case, like when we are clicking the first product, this is going to translate into a cy.get that targets this element, and then the subsequent click action based off of that. We have things like being able to assert directly on the URL. And so the idea behind this that kind of formed the basis for why we did prompt was, we want to take advantage of lowering the bar for you to be able to write tests. But we didn't really, we wanted to do this in a way that didn't inherit a lot of the common downsides of using natural language, if you will. Oftentimes, doing it in this way it either sacrifices a huge amount of performance. It's not uncommon to see other systems taking like an order of magnitude longer to perform these steps, or you're basically going to trade reliability, which is the faster that you go, the less reliable that the tests become. And so our goal with this was to basically optimize all of these things together and provide you a form factor that you're already familiar with. So prompt works like every other Cypress command. You can mix and match natural language along with just regular Cypress commands. I don't have this written in my test, but I have a before each hook that is doing common things like resetting this e-commerce database before every test. It doesn't force you to have to write the whole test in the natural language. You could write just a portion of it, and in fact, just like how normal Cypress commands work, like I could just chain off of this and it would automatically inherit the subject that is the last part of the last step here, which I think is pretty cool. We believe this has the ability to unlock like a whole host of new workflows. And I'll say that, you know, taking 15 seconds to run 13 steps is actually pretty fast, much faster than how these things normally work. But one of the things that we've really optimized is basically doing a whole host of very, very intelligent caching layers that will further speed all of this up. So while this run was, you know, reasonably fast, now when I rerun this, you know, it just went from 15 seconds to 2 seconds. And so this is basically working by, you know, splitting up the various phases of this pipeline. It's doing things like element caching, where it looks at, you know, when a test is successful, it caches the individual elements for each step. But all of these things are sort of harmonized together. As I kind of showed, like every single individual step, you know, works just like how, you know, normal commands do. So even though we're not describing the specificity, like we're not describing the DOM objects or exactly how to find an element, we can basically open up any one of these to understand what Cypress executed under the hood. And in fact, one of the things that we've done here is, you know, when you know, all commands, when you click them, you often get this additional debugging output. And what we can see here is basically like all the underlying information, including the amount of time or cost, if you will, that that prompt is adding on top of your normal Cypress tests. And you can see when it is already, you know, effectively cached the underlying elements, you know, this is all in milliseconds, but this is actually all that prompt is adding on top of, you know, your normal Cypress command. So it runs like 99% as fast as just normal Cypress commands. You don't pay that the typical cost that you'd find in other you know, AI LLM based systems. And we've done a whole lot of work to basically be able to pull this off. Now, one of the things that that is really cool about this system is that, you know, we enable it to work with a number of different workflows, meaning, you know, you can see all of the individual commands that are running. Like, we don't try to hide it from you. You can mix and match with your normal Cypress code, normal Cypress commands. And, you know, if I wanted to basically see, you know, all of the commands together, or maybe if I didn't want it to necessarily run all the time with, you know, making use of the LLM, really I had the option and the flexibility to do what we call, which is eject at any moment in time. In here, this is, you know, the UI that we've built around this. And you can basically see that the ejected code is basically matching exactly what ran in the individual steps. And so, you know, you could use this whether it's just, you know, you're let's say importing a bunch of tasks that are written in another system, and you're basically looking to jumpstart your tests, where your goal isn't to necessarily run within cy.prompt continually. You're sort of just doing like a one-time, you know, port of, you know, English instructions into test code. Totally fine to use prompt for that. But with that said, I wanted to call out, I think, a few of the more interesting aspects of why you may consider actually keeping it inside of inside of the sort of natural language DSL as opposed to the test code. And that has to do with the natural self-healing capabilities of keeping it sort of in the prompt form factor. So like when we kind of think about Cypress commands normally, typically you're traversing the DOM, you're finding elements, and of course, Cypress under the hood is naturally waiting for those elements to exist in the DOM. So like if the command executes too soon, it's totally fine. It'll just keep retrying until it actually finds the element that it's looking for. But that still assumes that an element based on this selector path or this selector path is actually going to become, it's actually going to exist in the DOM. What prompt offers you that is different and that is interesting relative to what you can normally do is, like I said, it's self-healing capabilities. And so I've got some code over here. Give me 1 second to pull this up. Yep. So in the prompt steps right here, where we are clicking on the cart, you can see, the prompt step. There's actually 2 prompt steps that describe this element. The first is like an assertion here, in which like we're saying, okay, go visit a product and go ahead and add that to your cart. Now the cart should have 1 item in it, and then immediately past that, we're simply just going in here and visiting the cart. Let's say that, I basically want to simulate what would happen if the DOM changed. How would prompt react to this? And so I have on my other screen, what I'm going to do is go ahead and update this element right here, and I'm basically going to change its selector around so that there will not be any element that is basically found from this existing selector. And so I've gone ahead and updated on my other screen, and you'll notice it still passed, right? It still went pretty fast at only 3 seconds. And I wanted to use this as an example to try to, illustrate what is actually going on here. So if we inspect some of the other prompt steps, right? We can see, the time to the first command, basically the time that it took to get through sort of the prompt operation before it started running your Cypress commands. This is extremely fast, right? It's that way because in this case, the elements are cached. It didn't have to do a lot of the work that it had to do like the first time that it ran. And then as we get down to here, we can see that this prompt step that was involving that element definitely took longer. Like you're not seeing, just a dozen milliseconds, you're seeing about a second. And what this is showing you is effectively that when prompt runs, it is going to aggressively try to, cache as much as possible, but it still goes out and it validates whether those elements exist, and it figures out like when it needs to actually go through itself heal routines versus when it can actually proceed. So this is an example of it basically being able to recover. You can see like it's now found the element because I had changed its selector so that the previous pattern or way that it would actually go out and do this, that got disrupted. it re-executed, but it didn't affect any of the things around it. So effectively, keeping your tests inside of like a cy.prompt form factor basically gives you this unique advantage that that you don't actually have even with just the normal Cypress DSL, if you will. But at the end of the day, like it is your choice how to handle your workflow. You could keep certain things inside that prompt. You could also use it like as a one-time conversion. It really makes no difference to us. We just basically wanted to point out that our approach has basically been to optimize entirely around reliability and performance, such that the cost of adding this relative to just writing the test code is very, very minimal, and you get additional upside that's not really possible to express with just, say static test code. And I think it's pretty cool. So what else, right? One of the other things that we want to talk about, or that might be on your mind, you might have a question about, is things like dynamic data. So I'm going to illustrate this with a set of fake user data. So I'm going to come over here. So we've got this prompt taken care of where, effectively we've added a product to the cart, we've checked out, and, we've ended on the checkout page. And so what this aims to illustrate is basically how prompt would actually behave if you were giving it dynamic data. So in this case, like this is just a function that I have imported and defined at the top of the file. And at first thought in doing this, you might kind of imagine, well, if I had dynamic data like this, I would probably do what I normally do in JavaScript and like concatenate, or, interpolate this variable, concatenate strings together, and basically this would just work. And let's go ahead and run this. And so, we see basically the second prompt here, planning these 9 steps that we did. And, we can see some of the information that it used. Basically, it's under the hood, it's just using like Faker.js, and it's gonna generate a new user every single time. And, nothing wrong with this. We can look at the clock and we know that all of these steps are probably taking, 2 seconds or so. This prompt is probably around 18 seconds. That's kind of what we expect. It's basically just going in and filling out this form field. And then let's see what happens when we rerun the same test. And you might notice it's not running as fast as the first prompt did. First prompt took like 13 seconds to get through all the steps, and then it was basically instantaneous at that point. And the reason has to do with the way that prompt works. And the hint, if we sort of look at what's happening with each individual step, when we refreshed, this is actually a different user. And that is because prompt works based off of the text that you give it, right? And if you give it dynamic content that is going to change every single time, there's no way for it to basically do the intelligent caching that backs sort of every single operation. So what that means is that it will always be uncached. It'll basically always have to build everything back up from scratch, and that undermines a lot of the value of prompt. But there is a relatively simple solution for this, and it is why prompt fully supports like dynamic data. It's just that you can't write it the way that you would sort of interpolate a string together. You can't basically give it the dynamic data directly inside of the steps. And for handling that, we have a little option here called placeholders. Effectively, you pass the dynamic data into the placeholders here, and then inside of your prompt template that has each of the individual steps, you simply just refer to the name of the placeholder, and it looks nearly the same as the other. It's still very ergonomic, still very simple and easy to write. And then when we run this, we can see we're not, I mean, it's still slow, but that's because this is technically the first time it's seen, these steps before. But gone are the sort of fake person's, name, and everything's still passed. We're at about 16 seconds, but now when we run it, it's going to run. It's going to run much faster, right? So now we're down to 6 seconds because effectively the next time around, each of the steps and all of the individual actions are able to be cached, and it effectively works the same way as the first prompt. So the idea is like that, we've tried to approach this to support really like all the prototypical testing patterns without the downsides that you typically experience working with these types of systems. And this is just a fun little example I wanted to share. Okay, cool. So what are some of the other cool parts of prompt? So prompt also has, basically built-in support. It has like this entire experience around, validating that you've given us the right information, if you will. I'll say that the way that we've written prompt in order to basically, max out its performance while harmonizing and balancing reliability, it does mean that sort of the DSL, the expression of the prompt, can't be sort of open-ended. There are other systems that try to do that where you give it sort of vague instructions and the LLM kind of has to figure out how to accomplish that. The challenge with that is that if you're having something make independent decisions and also be sort of the judge and the jury assessing how well that machine did those, that often leads to either a massive degradation of performance, or worse, you have false positives, which is pretty much the worst possible thing you could have as the authors of a testing framework. And so we certainly like this DSL, the natural language, allows you to definitely much more easily express what it is that you want, but there's sort of a signature of each step where you must provide each step with enough information for it to know how to proceed. And other systems, they have their own approach where if the user doesn't provide enough, it still tries to figure it out. But with ours, we have pretty strict safeguards around this. And we could illustrate this by basically just removing one of the required parameters, right? Like if the LLM is basically told to click, but it doesn't understand or you haven't provided the context around the target, rather than try to guess at what you want, it just fails up front and early. And we've tried to build a good experience around this. And so really every step is effectively individually validating whether the right amount of context has been provided to it so that it actually can perform reliable and fast functions. And this is just a it's sort of a curated experience around, helping you understand like what step is potentially missing information. We basically tell you exactly what to do. Like you obviously have to include the subject element to perform the click on, because there's not enough context here for us to know what to do. And we've done our best to basically fully integrate this to where you're not confused as to what is the thing that is throwing, or what information is needed. And so we've built this whole thing to where, I'll just put back, click the first product, where, right from within this interface, we can basically just give it what it needs, and it is basically back to working the way that it is. So yeah, let me see. So, that kind of wraps up this like very simple crash course into one of the things that we've been working on. We've been using this internally. Certainly, there are still things for us to improve on in different specific areas as it pertains to supporting additional commands, or giving you like more flexibility in being able to express more like compound expressions. There are also some limitations around things like what the LLM sees. It sees everything from the DOM's perspective, but it doesn't. We don't use any sort of like visual screenshotting or anything like that, which means like you couldn't describe, a blue button or a green button, or things that sort of have spatial dimensions to them. But pretty much it's going to work on anything that you would be expressing with normal Cypress commands in the first place, because that's obviously not built into the Cypress library. There's other improvements that we can make, but pretty much it is working pretty well. And as of today, it is being released. It is still in the experimental phase, so you're going to need to pass a flag in order to enable it. And at the end of this talk, I'm going to get into some more details about what that looks like. But please, if you're curious, go ahead and try it out, and let us know what you think. Okay, I'm going to switch to a different spec here and talk about some of the improvements that we are making into Studio. All right. So in this test, we basically just have like our basic products list, and we're going to be performing some actions in which it's all around like filtering and searching for products, right? If you're already on Cypress 15, you may have already seen some of these capabilities, but if you're not, great, you'll get to see them now. But the point of this is to actually kind of show where we're at today with some of the capabilities built into Studio, so you have a better understanding of what that looks like, and then what are the things that we are adding on top of that to basically solve some new and challenging problems, right? Okay, so I am going to open Studio here, and so in this case, like we're not going to be, writing prompt or regular Cypress. We are basically just going to be interacting with this app, and so the test plan here is basically, we want to test whether our products can be filtered, and that the right products are shown. And so with Studio, basically I have, I am just simply focusing on this test. I've opened up the Studio panel, which allows me to write the test code, but I can also just do things like directly interact with my application. So right now you'll see like that Studio is recording. What that means is that it's capturing all of the events and actions that are happening underneath your cursor. So the central idea around this is that really you can just use your application and click around it and type, and that Cypress will capture what has happened and effectively, try to reconstitute the event such that once you save this and rerun, then the exact same action that you just performed is done. And so, we can go ahead and filter for products under $15. We can see that that this was applied. I shouldn't be clicking because it's capturing all of those clicks, but just like any good test, the test is always basically like you set it up, you act on it, and then you assert. And so, we've gone ahead and filtered this list. So, the next typical step is we add an assertion. And so you can right click, which is what I'm doing right now. This brings up an assertion dialog. And we're giving you the element preview here. That there's a paragraph tag, and we can effectively write an assertion right after performing the action, in which like we're validating that that it has the text that is displayed right here. And we'll go ahead and save that. We can see that it ran. We see the commands that ran, and obviously this passed, right? I can also just, that was click, and you also notice like it based on the element that you're interacting with, like it picks the right Cypress method here. So in this case, like if we inspect the DOM, like we can see that this is a select element. And so we clicked on it, it translated that into a select with the right options. Same can be said for searching. Like if I'm in this input field and I typed in gaming, we can see once I focus off of this, it picks up the original click and then it types gaming. Let me just delete those that are not necessary. And if I, save this, it's going to play this right back. And to make things simple, we'll go ahead and we can see like that the text updated. It's now trying to find one product matching our like gaming filter in the price range of under $15. So we'll just go ahead and right click on that and add the same type of assertion. Click save, and this will just rerun. And it's also worth noting, like, I'm not showing this, but I certainly could. Like, anytime I click save or anything I write in here is actually persisting to the file system. It's bi-directional, so obviously if you change your IDE, that code will be reflected here. We've done this because this puts us in a really great position to basically better integrate into the test authoring experience, but it's not aiming to replace your IDE or anything else. It's really giving us a canvas in which like we can sort of do those translations, and you get much faster feedback on sort of the reaction to the events that are happening. And so let's see. And then the last thing here is, I want to click reset. Reset clears all the filters. We can see that get picked up. And then, we'll do one final assertion here and rerun this, and, everything passed. And, this is sort of some of the improvements that we've been making in the studio. But really, like why I'm doing this. So like this capability has actually been inside of Cypress for a while. We've definitely improved it over a period of time. Like recently, we've invested pretty significantly in improving like the selectors that are generated. They now have much more sophisticated rules that build off of parents and lots of other things to kind of come up with, if you've provided like a user attribute that that only like a human could have written, like we'll prefer those to other more generic attributes that may be used for styles or other things like that. But at the end of the day, like I think, or at least where we see ourselves going is that this sort of form factor in which like it is basically trying to react to the events that you have done. The challenge with that is that you can't ever produce like a single selector that works for everyone. Like different people will have different patterns, and basically just dumping in the code translations off of what you're doing is it's very limiting ultimately. And so I'm gonna go ahead and switch to a different spec here, and I'm going to click around and aim to illustrate something. Let me pull back Studio and capture this, and I guess better show or share kind of where we are headed with this. So we're going to go to our mouse pad. We are going to add it to our cart, and we're going to click up here, and then I'm going to go ahead and write a assertion. Should include cart, and we are going to. We're going to save that, and so basically, that ran those individual commands, and so what I'm going to do now is basically show that one of the cool things that we are working on, effectively with Studio today, you have to basically do this entire manual process. You have to effectively identify what it is that you want to work on. You have to execute the actions. And while you do get, some pretty basic assertion capabilities, ultimately, like it's still you making those decisions and interpreting, what it is that has changed in your application, and, trying to translate those things into assertions. And one of the things that we have been working on and have integrated some new AI capabilities is, you'll see down here, it says like AI assertions disabled. And actually, let me save before I do that and re-enable this. And so the approach that we are taking is sort of, learning from a lot of the patterns that made, prompt really useful and really powerful. We're basically taking and incorporating to different areas of the product. And this is basically showing an early preview of something that we've been working on, where you still have Studio to, basically point and click and execute the actions against. But instead of you having to then, basically find the elements and find the assertion and put in the right values, this system that you're seeing is basically an automated way of figuring out everything that has changed when significant sort of events happen or there's significant state changes. This is using, certainly the LLM, but I would say it's using it's using the LLM to solve problems that are otherwise impossible to solve, but it's really just a few small pieces. This is really like an orchestration of a lot of other layers sitting on top of that. It shares the same characteristics with prompt in that it has to be fast and it has to be completely reliable. There can't be any hallucinations. None of this code basically like we never want to be in a situation where it's incorrectly assessing what has changed or it's producing the wrong selectors. And that is basically how we have built this. In other words, like all of this is completely and totally real. These are like all the changes that have occurred after this event. So in this case, like, you know, I clicked the little plus on the quantity here. Let me just pause the recording so it doesn't keep adding more recommendations. But we can see, like, as we change the quantity, like the totals changed, they recalculated and whatnot. And so the way that this is working is that during a state change and also based on the intention of the test as well as what you've already done, it kind of looks at a bunch of different things, tries to analyze what it is that you're trying to do, figures out all the state changes of the DOM, and then puts the whole thing together to effectively come up with, you know, the assertions that best support the intention of the test. And you know, this is a pretty simple example, but you know, if I kind of went through these one by one, you would see that like what it's focusing on are all the things that actually changed. Like in this case, like we have this quantity that's just referring to this element that it contains the text to, that we have like the cart items here, like basically the subtotal and total down here has now has the right text. And you'll also see, you know, certain assertions, like it's actually saying like it shouldn't contain the old text, and that's because it's looking at more than just, you know, one single snapshot. It's basically looking at the state changes, and so it's able to understand what happened in the past and then what has happened now, and basically give you assertions that are more than just, you know, what it sees in front of itself at that one specific moment. Now, this is still, I would say, in the early phases, right? I mean, it is working end to end, and it actually is pretty darn accurate. We're still working on sort of quality of the responses, and I mean, there's definitely more to do here. But the idea behind this is that rather than you having to sit and basically understand your application and sort of translate that into Cypress, if we can basically build, you know, supporting systems that are, you know, that don't sacrifice reliability, don't sacrifice performance, and basically, you know, are this sort of, you know, agent at your wings that is going to give you these suggestions. Ultimately, that puts you still in a position of control where, hey, these are just suggestions. You obviously get an opportunity to analyze this and figure out what it is that you do and you don't want. So this is one of the latest directions that we are heading in. This is like this is a complementary capability relative to what Studio is already doing. It's what we refer to as like Studio AI. It's really the AI capabilities integrated natively into Studio. This is not yet publicly available. We've had a number of people in early access. This was, I would say, a original idea of ours was to basically accelerate you know, your test writing by giving you, you know, the individual code. Certainly there are still a lot of challenges with this form factor. You don't have the ability to select the individual selectors for elements. You basically, you know, get code, but if you wanted to make modifications to it, you're basically doing the same thing as normal Cypress code. And so what we're aiming to do is basically take this one level up and integrate it into both AI capabilities as well with Studio itself. And if I switch back here, this is we don't have like a working prototype of this, but I wanted to at least paint a picture of what this is aiming to do. And so with today's current features, like there's still a lot that's missing. Like you have you don't have the ability to change the selector. You don't have time travel. It's not like it's not highlighting the elements or anything like that. This is a direction that we are headed in, where instead of basically giving you assertions as raw code, it would basically highlight the DOM, tell you how many assertions are on each individual element, basically summarize the changes. This is in fact the precise changes that we were just looking at, but just with this new form factor. And then from within here, you still get the code preview, but now you have like basically a editor that allows you to select the individual assertions. Of course, now it makes it like pretty dead simple to just drop them or to add others. And there's some also really interesting capabilities around element targeting that then actually give you flexibility through the system that sort of analyzes the best way or the right way to select it, so that if what we're suggesting you want to change, you can basically use this system and it'll effectively guide you to accomplish that. And so I can basically go in here and accept this, and then now it becomes the code. And then I also see us adding basically the capabilities to edit existing sets of code to basically bring it back into the editor, and to certainly help you like identify like what are the areas of the page that is changed, what are the assertions associated to that. So this is basically like the next era of where we're headed with both the AI capabilities as well as Studio. And the other thing that I wanted to talk about is that that sort of last journey we were on, that was heavily influenced by AI capabilities, like the test that you write and the history that it built up. All that affects this, but actually there's an opportunity even without the AI capabilities to better integrate Studio into this. And so even though some of this stuff will only apply to the AI capabilities, like this is an example where when we were clicking around with Studio earlier, it's still kind of in a very primitive form, where when you select elements, it just basically interprets what you did. It spits out. You don't really have any control over the options that it passes it, or any sort of sophisticated ability to change things. But we are taking this same form factor and basically, giving you the full access to like the Cypress DSL. So like in this case, I've hovered over this element, and instead of just, immediately reacting to that and generating the code, oftentimes, adding extra commands that I have to go in and clean up. With this type of interface, now I can effectively select the actions that are obviously have to be applicable and appropriate for that element. I can set advanced options, but also more importantly, like this interface then gives me the ability to change the selector that I want to use prior to it, the system just automatically generating it, as well as even changing the locator strategy, such as giving the ability to actually query an element by cy.contains. And I see all of this as, it sort of has the benefit to everyone that is using Studio, and then also layering in the AI capabilities to effectively enhance these features. With the idea being that, with Studio, you'll have a much improved sort of point and click, like where you're in charge and you're doing what it is that to test, and then you have like the AI assertions, which are effectively doing that work for you, and then giving you the suggestions in a form factor that allows you to customize it at your will. There's also, we've just discussed internally doing things like, we already have the new cy.prompt command. It would be actually really great if you could sort of miniaturize that, and you rather than actually giving it instructions like a element target and an action, it'd be great if you could just describe the element and get back that, so that it's way more composable. Like right now, you sort of have to either use prompt or you have to use, the regular Cypress driver. It would be great if you could sort of just select elements and then get the self-healing capability just by itself without necessarily all of the other commands. And so for me, I see all of this, pretty elegantly fitting together. And yeah, that is basically where we are headed with this. Yeah. So to basically wrap up my 4 slides, to just kind of clarify on a few things, right? So Studio is in public beta. Pretty much everything is available now, except for the stuff that we haven't built yet that I was doing in Figma. That's obviously still under development. We have cy.prompt that is now available today for everyone. You just have to have a Cypress Cloud account because it's got to go through an LLM, but it doesn't matter. You can be free or paid. There are some usage limits that we put in place to basically prevent abuse. We go into more detail in our docs, but it's aimed at basically trying to help everyone be able, we want everyone to be able to use cy.prompt. We are still determining pricing for the AI capabilities, but certainly it's our goal and it's our wish for this to be adopted by our entire user base. So pricing's aimed to be fully accessible, affordable by everyone, teams of one person or huge teams at big companies. It should work for everyone. And all of the stuff that's in Studio other than the AI capabilities is obviously baked directly into the product. It's available to all users, and all of that is, of course, free. And so, I would say we're not building these things in sort of a big box, like all or nothing fashion. We've already released a ton of incremental features to Studio. We certainly plan to keep doing that. And so, bit by bit, I see these things will come out over the next few months. And as we mature, cy.prompt, like right now, you have to pass a flag to enable it, but as we get early feedback and we sort of harden a few of the different areas and feel confident with it, then we'll obviously move to a GA release.